I only go where I know I can outperform, back to the competition element. Like I want to get in the arena where I have a competitive advantage. If I'm playing with my money, I got 3 kids, like it's important to me that I'm protected and I'm playing with an advantage. And one opportunity that the mining business presents today is that it's a very uncrowded arena, right? You want to go gamble on overvalued tech stocks, you're competing with millions of people, right? It's a huge landscape. There's a lot going on. Go to the quiet corner of the room where there's only a few people having a conversation, and, you can climb that ladder a lot faster. And I'd love to know what you think about that, because it's still the mining business, the precious metals business, still a very unloved sector, and easy to hate on, but it's where we get our raw materials from. It's absolutely necessary. And, what's your take on that, Adam?
Yeah. So, I'm right there with you on all that. I think, again, Rick Rule, he says, look, I don't like to focus on what's loved. Don't tell me about what you love. Tell me about what you hate. Because he basically has made the vast majority of his money investing in sectors when they were left for dead, right? When nobody wanted to touch them, right? So I totally agree right now that, there's a lot of untapped opportunity here. Now, you and I can talk about, the evolving geopolitical situation. We can talk about, the ongoing, loss of purchasing power in fiat currencies. I mean, there are all these big macro tailwinds that should be very positive for commodity prices going forward, right? Yet, I'm sure you've seen the charts of, commodity prices to the S&P, right? We're still kind of at a historic low in that ratio, right? Which again, I think investors like Rick Rule love to see, right? Because extremes are called extremes for a reason, right? They eventually revert, right? And you can make a lot of money on that mean reversion, right? And I think one of the things that's particularly interesting about the precious metals complex right now is, do you remember when Grant Williams wrote that piece? God, it was 8-9 years ago, titled "Gold Nobody Cares."
I do.
And
Yeah.
And he was basically talking to guys like you and me who were in the gold trade for all the reasons that we're in it right now, right? And he said, look, you're probably right. The problem we have right now is that nobody cares.
Quick break here, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Coppernico Metals. Now, regular viewers of my channel will be familiar with the entrepreneur behind Coppernico. His name is Ivan Bebek. Now, although a young man in this business, Ivan's already created tremendous value for his shareholders in the past, namely with Caden Resources, which he sold to Agnico Eagle, and Keegan Resources, which became a mine now owned by Galiano Gold. Now, Ivan has surrounded himself with expertise from BHP, Newmont, and Barrick on his board at Coppernico Metals. Check out coppernicometals.com. Now back to the interview.
Since he wrote that piece, gold had a lot of rough years in between 2012 and, just a few years ago. And, investors just didn't care. Now, in recent years, central banks have really started caring, right? They've really started swapping out sovereign debt, namely U.S. treasuries, on their balance sheets for gold, right? So they're net big buyers of gold. The Asian speculator has woken up and said, look, we can't get it, we can't get enough gold, and they've been buying hand over fist since, right? The Western investor, the Western speculator, has not cared. Now we're beginning to see some initial signs, some initial positive flows into the ETFs, a few things that it's maybe beginning to catch the eye of the Western investor. And if it does, that is a massive opportunity for price here for the reasons which you mentioned. Wall Street, I think, has a bias against gold, but Wall Street has a much bigger bias for momentum and making money. And once it really starts thinking, hey, there's really money to be made in this sector, capital is going to move there. And as you know, this space, particularly, gold relative to general stocks or bonds, very small. Silver, tiny. The mining complex, infinitesimal, right? So you get this potential asymmetric upside of not a lot of percentage of capital flowing out of stocks or bonds into this space can have a dramatic positive upward explosive effect in price. And so, Yeah, I agree with everything you said. And when I look at this space, I think that's kind of your competitive advantage. If you're right. Now, obviously, there's no guarantees in this world, but I can see a lot of reasons why the Western investor is increasingly going to be forced to have to care about gold. And as gold is now hitting record highs, I think Wall Street's really beginning to wake up to this and say, hey, something interesting is going on. And, it's just like an hour before coming on your show, I just published a video where I interviewed Luke Roman. And Luke is so bearish on bonds, on mid to long-term sovereign bonds. He says they're uninvestable for the foreseeable future. And let's just assume for a second his thesis is correct, that they're going to have a much tougher time going forward. I mean, Jay, if 1% or 2% of capital were to leave the bond market and move into the precious metals complex, I mean, what impact do you think that would have? It would be gargantuan, right?
Yeah, that's a David and Goliath story right there in terms of size discrepancy.